Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's great to have all of you here with us tonight. If you haven't had the opportunity, please take a moment to wish the person next to you or in front of you, behind you, Shabbat Shalom. We welcome one another into this space as we create a holy community. Take a moment to breathe in what we hope to be restful reflection for this Shabbat, and breathe out any of the distress of the week that has passed. A clean, fresh breath. We'll begin with a nigun. Does anyone remember what a nigun is? A wordless melody. So you don't have any words to follow, but you will be following Courtney, so I'll let her begin.
As Rabbi mentioned, it is so wonderful for us to be here together on this day. We continue with the words of Hine Matov, which you can find on page 10. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet achim gam yachad, hine matov. Shevet achim gam yachad, hine matov u'manayim. Shevet achim gam yachad, hine matov u'manayim. Shevet achim gam yachad.
In a moment, we're going to turn to page 74 for the words of Matovu. You may notice that we normally will recite Matovu on a Shabbat morning, but this evening we are reading it or singing it, I should say, because we have two Torah portions tonight, and in our second of those two is where the words Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov come from, and so in honor of that we will be singing the words now. Page 74.
Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, Vani berov chasecha, ahavo v'techa, eshtachavicha lekodshecha b'yiratecha, Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, We continue on page 2 with our candle blessing, and we invite forward Nick Schmall to light the candles for us this evening.
Whoops. And disaster strikes. Okay, that makes me feel better. The last day. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshenu b'mitzvotav v'tzvanu lehalek ner shel Shabbat. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with mitzvot and command us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. May we be blessed with Shabbat joy. May we be blessed with Shabbat peace.
Amen.
May we be blessed with Shabbat life.
Amen.
Marshall,
Thank
you're welcome.
you. We continue together on page 20 with the words of Lecha Dodi, and as is our tradition, we will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamur v'zachur b'dibur echad yishmi'anu elam yuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litehila Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Itoreri itoreri ki va'orech kumi hori uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom materet bala gam b'simcha u'b'tzola toch emunei hamsegula boi chala lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We turn together to page 26.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash mir rabba B'alma divrach yotev yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedeko bet Yisrael Bagala uv'izman kariv v'himeru Amen. Yehesh merabba mevarach le'alam ulal me'almaya yitbarach v'ishtabach
vit bahar, vit ramam, vit nasi, vit hadar, vit halal, vit halal, shemid kudesha brichu, lahela mikol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, v'himeru, amen.
Please rise in body or spirit as you are able.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach
le'olam va'ed.
We turn to page 30 as we read together in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil bein yom uvein layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. On page 33, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. We turn together on page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarata bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lektecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. On page 39, in a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Malechutecha rahu vanecha, ukei hayam Lifnei Moshe Miriam, Zelianu ve'amru, Adonai Yimloch, Adonai Yimloch, le'olam va'ed.
V'ne'amar ki vada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazach mimenu. Baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
On page 43, give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We turn to the words on page 45.
A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Agitahilatecha.
Page 48.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imaot, U'Mevii Geula Livnei Bneihem, Le'ma'an Shemo v'Yahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, V'chayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatal, מחלקי לחיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated.
We recite Kiddushat Hayom as we sanctify the day, page 55 at the top. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Ritzei, Ritzei, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, ve'hamcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam, ve'avat kabel, u'teil ratzon tamid, u'teil ratzon tamid, avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirat avod, she'otecha levadecha b'yirat avod.
On page 59, when we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amecha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amecha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol shalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol shalom. V'tov binecha levarich et amecha Yisrael bechol et uvchol shah bishlomecha. את עמו ישראל בשלום.
We now take a moment for silent prayer and private meditation.
Please join with me on page 244 for our Torah service. If you're able to, please rise.
אין כמוך אלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור אדוני מלך אדוני מלך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום כי מציון תצא תורה כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני Adonai iti, umro ma shemo yachtav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'tiferet v'anitzach v'haod ki kol b'shamayim uvaretz ki kol b'shamayim uvaretz lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'amid na'aseh lechol erosh.
You may be seated.
As I mentioned just a little bit before, our Torah portion this week is actually a double Torah portion, in that in order to get through all of our Torah portions throughout the year, sometimes they double up. This is one of those times where it's actually a very interesting opportunity because we have two very important stories that are being pushed together. Sometimes it's something that makes sense, like the Tazria, Matzorah, when we're dealing with a lot of the things in Leviticus with things that make you impure. In this case, it's actually two very different stories. The first is from Parshat Chukat. Chukat comes from the word of chukim, or laws, which refers specifically to one type of law, those whose purpose and origin appear to be unclear. So what it refers to as Chukat, HaTorah, in the first sentence is the law of the red heifer. This is certainly a law that leaves us a little bit bewildered. We, of course, like to have laws that make sense. So chukim are often understood as tests of obedience. But our Torah portion talks about much more than just the red heifer. It describes the Israelites' 40th year in the desert. It is in this portion that we learn that Miriam the prophet dies at Kadesh. And immediately after that, we are told how the people are thirsty and they are complaining for water. Moses, commanded by God to perform the miracle, assembles the community before a rock. There, he hits the rock and outpours water. And this is the section that I'm about to read from. In the following sections, we learn that as a result of hitting the rock, God will not permit Moses to enter into the promised land. And then Aaron dies on Mount Hor, and after a period of mourning, Eleazar begins to follow him as the high priest. This portion, of course, there's more to it. Those are the highlights, but as you can tell, there's a lot going on just in this portion alone. Then we get to the second portion, the part that I referenced at the beginning with Ma Tovu. We're told in this section that when the Israelites, now about 2 million strong, approach King Balak's domain in Moab, he summons the pagan prophet Balaam to curse his enemy before the Israelites can attack. Balaam first refuses to obey, arguing that this people is blessed by God, but he changes his mind when God assures him that his mission has divine sanction. On the way, Balaam's ass balks when she encounters an angel with a drawn sword. Balaam is blind to the angel and beats the ass until she speaks to him, after which the angel makes himself visible to Balaam. Arriving at Balak's side, Balaam blesses Israel instead of cursing it, even against his own will, and out of his mouth come the words, Ma Tovu. If you would like to follow along in our reading, you can find it in our Torah Plaut Chumash on page 1026, 1026, 1026. I invite you to please join with me in the blessing before Torah. That can be found on page 250 in your Siddur. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. There it is. As I saw it just a moment ago. Vayavo Moshe v'Aharon mipnei hakachel el petach ohel moed. And Moses and Aaron went before the tent of meeting and went. Let me start again. Vayavo Moshe v'Aharon mipnei hakachel el petach ohel moed. After having gone to the opening of the tent of meeting, Aaron and Moses then go and face the kahal, the congregation. Vayiblu al panehem, and they fell upon their faces. Vayera kavod Adonai alehem, and the presence of God appeared to them. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses, saying, Kach et hamateh, take your staff, v'hakhel et ha'edah, Ata v'Aharon achicha, and for the community you shall go forward, you and your brother. Udibartem el hasela le'enehem, and you should tell them that you are going to speak unto the rock before their eyes. V'natan meimav, that it should yield water. V'hotzeta lahem maim min hasela, and then you will bring forth water from the rock. V'hishkita et ha'edah ve'et be'iram, and then the community and their animals will all be watered. Vayikach Moshe et hamateh milifnei Adonai, and Moses took his staff from before God, ka'asher tzivahu, according to what God had commanded him. V'ikalu Moshe v'Aharon et hakachal El Panei Hasela, and Moses and Aaron gathered up the community until they were before this rock. Vayomer lahem, and said to them, Shimu na hamorim, listen up, you rebels. Ha min hasela hazeh, from this rock are we notzi lechem maim, are we supposed to bring forth water for you? Vayaram Moshe et yado, and Moses lifted up his hand, vayach et hasela b'matehu, and he hit the rock with his staff, pa'amayim, not just once but twice. V'yatziu mayim rabim, and of course what happened, there came copious amounts of water, v'tesh ha'edah uve'iram, at which point the people drank as well as their animals. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aharon, and God said to Moses and to Aaron, Ya'an lo he'emantem bi lahakdisheni le'enei v'nei Yisrael, because you didn't trust me in order that you should sanctify me in the eyes of the Israelites, lechen lo taviu et hakahel hazeh el ha'aretz asher natati lahem. Therefore you will not be able to go with this community to the land which I have given to you. Natati lahem hema, there. Me meriva asher ravu b'nei Yisrael et Adonai v'kadesh bam. And these are the waters of Meribah. Meribah means bitter, from where the Israelites fought with God instead of sanctifying God. Please join with me in the blessing following the reading. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. As we have the Torah in our midst, Mishaberach Avotenu ve'imotenu. O God, we name in our hearts and mind those who are facing illness and pain. May they benefit from the healing power within them and from the wisdom, experience, and skill of those entrusted with their care. May those who are ill find strength in the knowledge that those who love them and care about them and are praying for them are wishing them well. May they find courage and comfort in any difficult days ahead. We think especially tonight of Isaac Stoller, Kajimira Cairo, Jeremy Watts, Tiffany Lobertini, Mariah Strickland, Grace Gressley, Eileen Eady, Lonnie Carpenter, David Woods, Charles Fia, Kim Howell, Julie Wagner, Eleanor Must, Ann Burke, Catherine Cooper, Sid Gross, Cicely Nathan, Jim Locke, Gary Pacernick, Bob Kahn, Steve Samuels, Arlene Rasnick. If there are other names to be mentioned, I invite you to call those out at this time as my hand goes across the room. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, O God, who brings healing to all who are in need of healing. The words from Mishaberach can be found on page 253.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lamotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Turn to page 252. If you are able to, please rise as we lift and dress our Torah.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. אבי אדוני ביד משה.
This section of our Torah always seems a bit harsh, doesn't it? We have all of our story coming up until this one moment, and in a fit of rage, a fit of anger, Moses does something, and that thing, in not listening to God, in having his anger bubble up, in hitting that rock, he loses the opportunity of a lifetime, the opportunity to go into the promised land. Now, our rabbis have a lot to say about this, as you can imagine. They have a lot to say about most things, but especially when it comes to someone like Moses and his inability to go into the land. Some of the reasons that they say he is not allowed to go in stem from reasons such as that they claim that Moses lacked faith. How do you think that Moses lacked faith in this moment? God asks Moses, or tells Moses, this is what you need to do to make something happen. And in that moment, Moses doesn't trust that God is going to let that happen. Moses feels like he needs to do something even more extreme. If he had believed in God, he would have followed. We also have the idea of arrogance. In what way did Moses display arrogance? Absolutely. You rebels. Shall we draw water from this rock? It's no longer about God bringing the water from the rock, but the arrogance is also about himself and his role that he plays. Why is he so angry with them, this people? At this point, why is he angry at them? Exactly. He just lost his sister. He's having a pretty bad time right now. In addition, he has a group of people where every time they move forward, every time they start to move away from Egypt, they keep wanting to turn back. They always are looking backwards at what they had and not what they have, and not looking forward to the future. And again, Miriam's been with them for so long. Never are we told about Miriam's well. It's only when she dies that we learn that it was through her well that Miriam was sustaining the people. They had to wait until she was gone before they could appreciate her. And so Moses, perhaps in his anger for her loss and his sadness, has had enough. And now he's willing to call them out. He also succumbed to impatience. How was he impatient in this moment? Carol, did you say something? Very annoyed, and he did. He yelled back at them. In the past, we were taught that Moses has more of a quiet tone, if you will, right? He has a problem speaking, and so Aaron becomes his mouthpiece. Now all of a sudden, he's gotten to a point where words are probably not the problem anymore, but he has indeed lost his patience. And then, of course, there's the exhibiting of anger. Now, I don't think that Moses was always seen as someone who never got angry, because we saw what happened out of righteous anger when he was facing the Israelite being beaten by the Egyptian. And his righteous anger came out when he beat the slave. And so we can't imagine that this is so much of a surprise. But what we can be surprised about is that 38 years have passed between the time that the Israelites left Egypt. Even longer than that when we think about the time that Moses was living in Egypt. Over 40 years, we can imagine that some of those behaviors, some of those styles would hopefully change, right? That there's an opportunity to grow and to learn as a people and as a leader. And as someone who is familiar with his people, we would have expected, this is not the first time he's had to strike a rock or talk to a rock to make water come forth, right? Why should he make this time so impassioned? So we're taught in many different sources that perhaps, again, this is because of what was going on, as Rita so delicately put it, in his own personal life, with his sister having gone, his brother about to die, looking out after 40 years of wandering to the next step in this period of transition was a period of great fear and concern. And it was a time, perhaps, when Moses should have been taking just a step back to pay attention and to recognize what was happening, perhaps not let his righteous anger boil over. Looking at a book by Bradley Shavit Artson, The Bedside Torah, he says that Moses' sin was that his anger blinded him to the real possibilities that dialogue would have offered. He could only see his own grievances and rage, remembered the abuses suffered at the hands of the tribes. He talks about how he is so focused in on the wrongs of the past that he can't see the future. And so the suggestion that Rabbi Artson leaves us with is that it's really important for us to tap in to some of God's patience, to God's forbearance, to be paying attention and giving ourselves those opportunities to respond differently than we might have before given the opportunity to grow and to learn, to experience God in our lives. And so we hope that we do not, like Moses did, misjudge the present by imagining it as the past, that we lose the opportunity for our future. Something for us to be thinking about on this Shabbat. We turn to page 256 and rise in body or posture if you are able to return the Torah to the ark.
Yitzchayim hi lama chazikim ba v'tom b'chea meushar derachea darchi noam v'chon tivotea shalom ashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadish yaminu chadish yaminu kekedem.
The words for Aleinu can be found on page 282.
On page 291, there are stars up above, so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We are in a period of Shiva for Ella Amsterdam and Melvin Kaplan. We are in a period of Shloshim for Judith Rustlander. We also remember those who died at this season in years past, those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We are observing yahrzeits for William B. Israel, Lillian Manhai Lanzett, Emma Bierman Levine, Edward Ellery Rogers, Fanny Nirenberg, Audrey Cook, Ida Weprin, Arthur J. Margolis, Thelma Law, Elizabeth Florence Rickenbach, David Alexander Seidel, Dr. Harris Merle Burt, Charles R. Goldswig, Benedict Olk, Matilda Rosenthal, Vitaly Berkovich, Pat Evans, Annabelle Goldman Gershow, Israel Rosen, Irving Sachs, Carl Tenbosch, Helen C. Eisenberger, Dora Rubin, Louis Philip Office, Ruth Franklin, Joan Wyman, Marshall Fisher, Isidore Bramson, Melvin Wiviot, Rose Zimmerman Kolp, Babette Reinheimer, George Rudin, and Emily Weissman. I invite you to call forward any other names to be remembered or perhaps pronounced more correctly. I invite all who are in mourning or who are remembering to please rise first. And we as a congregation rise as we turn to page 294 to recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabbah, be'alma divrach yurteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always and only be for a blessing among us.
We close our service singing the words of Osei Shalom, which you can find at the bottom of the Mourner's Kaddish.
Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Zehayom asa Adonai nagilav v'nismechavo. This is the day that God has created for us. Let us rejoice and be glad in it together. We'll join in the hallway in a moment for Kiddush and Motzi. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.